Good morning and welcome to the June 30th, 2022 subdivision meeting for the city of Fayetteville. I'm Commissioner Garlock and I'll be chairing today's meeting. We have with me Commissioner Sparkman and in attendance members of the city staff, members of the public, and we're all welcome. So thank you very much. With that, we have two items on today's agenda, and with that, I'll call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is CCP 2022-7 concurrent plat that's submitted by Jorgensen and Associates for property located at 567 North Cresswell. The property is zoned RSF 8, residential single family, 8 units per acre, and contains approximately 12.2 acres. The request is to create 59 residential lots. And with that, I'd like Ms. Masters to give the information, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the subject property before you today, the Commission has likely seen a couple times. It has come through with some previous development items. So the previous requests that came before you were two separate large-scale developments, phases 1 and phase 2 of the Nash Property subdivision. So phase 1 was approximately this area here that came through back in 2020, and then phase 2 was approximately this area here, which came through in 2021. So those two separate development projects were to develop right-of-way and single-family homes on the site, basically concurrently. So what the large-scale development did was allow the developer to build homes and streets at the same time. Now what the proposal is before you today is to actually come through and physically subdivide those lots now. So with this development, the developer is basically just subdividing the land. So differently than a typical preliminary plat, final plat process. Again, this large-scale development followed by concurrent plat allowed the developer to build the homes and streets and infrastructure simultaneously. So essentially no additional development is being done with this proposal. They are just coming through and subdividing the land. So with this request, no additional water or sewer infrastructure is required. That's already been completed or is underway, or that process is underway to be completed. As far as right-of-way is concerned, the developer will be dedicating right-of-way on West Greens Chapel Road, North Cresswell Drive, and West Holdcroft Drive in the amount of 52 feet per our typical master street plan standards. There is a small amount of North Genevieve Avenue, which is going to be dedicated in the amount of 45 feet in accordance with the residential link street standards when there is no on-street parking. Everything that they're doing is in line with the two large-scale developments that came through as well. As far as street improvements are concerned, both phases were assessed for some additional off-site street improvements to North 54th Avenue for the added impact that this development would make to that location. Those assessments do need to be collected prior to any signatures on the plat. So those amounts are listed there for phase 1 and phase 2. There was also an additional assessment for the creation of a temporary cul-de-sac turnaround here. So in these instances, and that amount was for $24,417.75. This will also need to be paid prior to the signature on the plat. So what that means is this temporary turnaround is created for in order for the fire department to have a way to turn around in the event they are needed there. But if this street is to ever connect to something in the future, again, this could be 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, doesn't necessarily matter, doesn't mean it's coming anytime soon. But if and when that happens, this cul-de-sac will be removed and that assessment will be used to pay for that removal. Tree preservation easements were required to be dedicated with the concurrent plat as a condition of approval of the large-scale developments. I'll let the urban forester speak more on those requirements, but they appear to be currently met. And as far as parkland fees, those were actually collected prior to the building permits being issued on this site previously. So They were assessed Parkland dedication fees with phase 1 of $30,492 and for phase 2 $33,759 for the creation of these single family lots. Again, those have already been collected. As far as public comment is concerned, we did, prior to this meeting, receive one inquiry about the proposal, but we did not receive any direct opposition or support about the proposal. We did direct one question to the engineering division regarding the cleanliness of the construction site, but we don't know, I don't know the outcome of that conversation. So with that, we are recommending to forward CCP 2022-07 to the Planning Commission with a recommendation of approval with conditions. Again, those would be dealing with the amount of right-of-way dedication and the recommendation on those remaining street improvements for those assessments. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have, and I'm sure all the members of city staff would like to speak on this as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Masters. With that, could we hear from Urban Forestry and Ms. Evans, please?
Yes, thank you. So as Ms. Masters said, everything on this concurrent plat is in alignment with what was approved with their large-scale development plans and their easement plat for that. With that, a tree preservation easement was dedicated. My main comment on this particular item is that they provide the larger urban forestry signature block on their title page to match what was on the large scale easement plat. Otherwise, urban forestry doesn't have any comments. We're okay with it moving forward.
Thank you. I noticed Mr. Picassio's memo in there. Is he online or would like to say anything? May we have Mr. Picasso, please?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm online. We didn't have very many comments on this. The main one is making sure that that grading permit's closed out, so a part of that will be ensuring the site is acceptable. We're not having any track out or erosion problems, maintenance bonds, as-built information for all the infrastructure. So there's still a few checks that need to happen before we can sign the plat, but we're comfortable moving this one forward, recommending that it move forward.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Is there anybody else online that from the city that would like to comment?
You may want to call on the fire department. Nathan Wood is available.
Okay, Mr. Wood, please, if you have any comments, we'd definitely like to hear them.
Fire has no comments on this project. Recommends it moving forward.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. With that, is anyone from Jorgensen and Associates here online?
Yes, we do.
May we hear them, please?
We have a Charles Zarden present online.
Nice now.
Good morning. This is Charles Arden from Jorgensen and Associates. I appreciate everybody's review. I don't think we have anything to add, but I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. With that, I'd like to open it up to members of the public. Is there anybody from the public? Yes, please come on up and state your name and give us your information.
Thank you. My name is Najib Gadbian. I live on West Cane Hill on the south side. You could have that project there or the chart again. I would like to start by saying this is something has a history, and the history was those of us who live on that side objected to the rezoning. If you remember, we sent a letter. Of course, the Planning Commission did not approve this, but the City Council did approve it. Anyway, in addition to all the concerns we had about the congestion, about this is going to be overtaxing on the infrastructure, everything, these are really, really tiny houses. And since they built some of them, the word that everybody's using, they're the ugliest housing ever. They all look the same. And I'm very sympathetic to the low-income housing, very much, but the impact so far has been on many of us, and I could speak for 3 other neighbors, and I have one more neighbor here to speak, has been really bad on us on 2 ways. Last time when it rained, all of the rain came from the construction, and I live on the south side, into my yard with all the dirt. The second thing, the houses they built so far, they basically, they built them higher than our fences, so they overlook our yard living area. And we see their bedrooms, 2 of their bedrooms. These are, again, the same houses on all of that row. So what we're asking here is that this was a farm, 12-acre farm. I think they uprooted every tree except 2 in the middle. There are mature trees on 3 sides, except on our side. So what we're asking is 2 things: to have a drainage system, and the second thing is to have mature trees built between that development and our housing. We believe that's the least they could do. They again caused us, they uprooted 1 tree on my property. They caused some damage to my neighbor's fence and all of that. That's fine. But we believe for this to go forward, this is the least they should do. They should plant some trees between that development on our side and their side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see on slide 18 it is, of what you're talking about with your houses.
Yes.
So I appreciate that. Anybody else would like to speak? Yes, please. If you could come up and state your name and.
My name is Edward Tisnato. I live at 5806 West Cane Hill Drive. I'm on the lower left corner of the entrance of the street, that middle entrance. I'm on that corner house there, so I get a lot of whatever's going on there. I'm in agreement with Najib, that's over here, is that we see the trees that used to be there, and we see the trees that are on every side except ours. And so why did you guys remove the trees between us and the new houses being built? We have no barrier, no privacy. Because I'm on the corner and I have a deck, I'm completely exposed to the whole intersection. So anybody.
Can I interrupt for just a second? Could we pull up slide 18 on the packet?
Sure.
If we could. I think this helps us assimilate what you're saying. I think 18 is where it shows the southern perimeter of.
Yes.
Sure, it'll take me a moment.
Okay, yeah, it'll pop up, so good.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you on that particular graph there, you see the street coming in, the one that was up, the middle street coming up. My house is right here on the corner. So I'm here on the corner, there's a house behind me, and then there's that intersection. So from that intersection, I'm completely exposed. There's no privacy whatsoever. That's what Najib was saying. And they just cut down all the trees. They could have left some trees there to, allow us some privacy as well, but that's one thing. The other thing is the water flow. I have no idea how they're doing the water flow. When they built my house, because Najib and mine were the last ones on the previous development, and they built a drain from the street, goes underground halfway through my yard, and then there's the opening of the drain, and then it runs for the other half of my yard, and then through Najib's yard. So we have water running through. So for me, because the drain is actually my backyard, I get all the trash. So whenever there's a rainfall, my whole entire backyard after that rainfall is full of trash that comes to that drain. There's no kind of filter. There's nothing that's. In fact, it doesn't even serve a purpose anymore now that they extended the drain going north. I don't see the point of it being there anymore. That's another thing. And then just to bring some of the issues to your attention on the building itself, my fence was damaged. They backed up into it and broke some of the planks that run on the wooden fence. 1, 2, they had to move the gas line from my backyard outside of my fence to the other side where they're developing the other house. When they did that, I asked them, are you guys going to replace my grass exactly the same? I don't want it damaged. I don't want you to leave holes or anything. They said, yeah. They did the opposite. So when they were done, I had sinkholes. And so I have these sinkholes in my yard because they just threw all the dirt back in. They didn't do it properly. They didn't care how they did it. They just threw it back in. So now I have, damage in my backyard. Not only that, but AT&T, their subcontractor, then came through the city to lay their optics, and then on my front yard they dug 2 holes. And I asked the same thing, are you guys gonna replace my grass? Cause this is my yard, it's not the sidewalk, it's my yard. Again, and they said, yeah, and I have 2 holes in my front yard, and they did the same thing, they just got the soil, put it back on and packed it no particular way. So they're causing all this damage to my yard and my fence, and there's no accountability. I called them, I tried to get a hold of the site manager, nobody's returned my call. I'm trying to get these things resolved, it's not going anywhere, these people don't care, basically, is what's going on.
Excuse me, how long ago was that, the trash floating?
Well, the last rain, well, the last heavy rain, every heavy rain.
Okay.
Yeah, every heavy rain it comes through, and I gotta clean it up in my backyard. So I'm, let's see, where am I? Najib, where are we on here?
The top, the center top is the development subdivision. We're underneath, the few houses under.
We're on the left or underneath it?
But this is the area of
Yeah.
concern?
Yeah, where are those 2 houses
Yeah,
right
we're
there?
the 2 houses.
1, 2, right, and I'm the one on the corner.
The left
On
one.
the left.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
The other thing is, I'm bringing these things to attention, so the other thing is, and I don't know about policies here, I'm gonna be seeking some advice on how to get some policy changed, but in the development process, there's no limitations, they're there working 24/7. I mean, they're there Saturday, Sunday, they're there from 9, 10 o'clock. There's no limit to the noise, in other words, so they can have generators running on Sunday till, 9, 10 o'clock. And I get that, well, there has to be development, I understand that, but it seems there's no limits. The other thing is, they bring their music, they bring their stereo systems, their boom boxes, and they just blast them. Sometimes they play them outside, sometimes they play them inside the house. It doesn't really matter because even if it's inside the house, it just echoes. And so all of us alongside there are hearing this booming music and talk, radio and all this going on 24/7, nearly 24/7. And so I guess there's no ordinance on that either, on like, is there a limit for how loud this music can go all day? So we're listening to basically generators, machines, and music 7 days a week is what's going on. I think that's it. Like I said, I've tried to get in contact with them. Nobody's answering, nobody's responding, and I have damage in my yard. This development doesn't really care. And then the last thing, I'm not sure if you brought up Najib, but they send a street cleaner through to sweep the roads, and he has pictures. Well, we have a bunch of pictures. We have pictures of 2 days ago. Basically, the street cleaner, because there's so much mud and then it dries, and the street cleaner goes through, and all it does is create this huge cloud of dust that then it covers our backyards, it covers our decks, it covers our cars. Our cars, my truck is just, it's just dirty. It's just completely covered, and then we're in the intersection, so we have the light, and the light hits that dust, you just see this cloud, almost looks like smog, you can't see through it, it's that bad.
Okay.
So these are just kind of things which just bring it to your attention that should be changed and should be talked about, in my opinion.
Good. Well, thank you very much, first of all, for time coming out of your days to come down here. There's a lot there that we need to uncover. I think I'd like to first start with the work hours. Is there a city ordinance of the time of construction and time of, I think there is even with cutting of grass, even though in my neighborhood it's the same thing at 7. But Ms. Masters, could you highlight the city ordinances on?
Yes, I believe there are. I think the engineering division is gonna be more in tune with the construction ordinances as far as noise and stuff, and it looks like Josh is online and can answer that question.
Mr. Bricaccio, could you highlight not only the work hours, but also the cleanliness of the construction site? Also, they alluded to the fact of washout and runoff, since this subdivision is higher than their property, correct?
Yes.
That's gonna be concerning to me. Could you highlight?
So, as far as, we do have a noise ordinance, 96.02. And the one that we typically deal with, is late night construction noises near residences. And so typically that's 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday. and then 11 p.m. to 9 a.m. on Sunday. And so that noise from construction is restricted during that time. I do know that there's another noise control as far as stereos and things like that, but that's not something that the engineering division looks at. I believe it's the police department that is the enforcement mechanism on that. As far as the street cleaning, we did get a couple calls over the past week asking about if that's allowed. We had one of our inspectors go out and chat with the contractor, and they can use a street sweeper as long as it is a damp one, so it sprays some water and then vacuums that material up. So they should be using a street sweeper that just pushes dust into the atmosphere. And then as far as the drainage goes on this project, that might be a question that's better answered by the applicant's representative. I did not review this project when it came through, so I'm not completely familiar with the drainage design.
Thank you very much, Mr. Picascio. Could we have Mr. Zarden to address the drainage?
Yes, so I think the backyards of those two houses, there's an existing kind of swell with an existing drainage easement.
Yes.
And so that's just kind of draining towards that detention pond to the west of those two houses.
Yeah.
And the runoff from this development to the north is probably just due to the disturbed area around where the building houses. And I think they're getting close to wrapping up the construction on those, and they'll be installing sod in the next week or two. And I think that will, slow down any runoff and prevent any more, sediment from flowing into their yards. And in regards to the privacy and the trees, they'll be planting quite a few mitigation trees on site, and we could relocate some of those in that area to, provide a screen if that's acceptable with urban forestry. I'm not sure, but that might be a solution.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you also address the trash coming down from the construction site, since that's, I would presume, be your people?
Yeah, I guess that would be coming from the home builders, and we can talk to the developer and let them know that that's an issue and make sure that's resolved.
That would be important, because it is a concern and shouldn't be exacerbated. So, and also with screening, if you could be a good neighbor and talk with the city and maybe some of the neighbors and Miss Evans about what types of mitigation. Miss Evans, could you highlight something? Because I hate having trees torn out and then having basically 20 years till they're gonna create something. Miss Evans?
Yeah, I can definitely work with you all on that. I think, we could look at relocating some of those mitigation trees to that southern property line. If you can, make some adjustments on the plan and shoot that over to me, that'd be great. And then maybe change some of the species of trees to evergreens, like a green giant, arborvitae, which, will be evergreen all year and are pretty hardy. I think that would help solve some of this issue.
Yeah, perfect, good.
So who do we coordinate with about this?
Miss Evans is with the urban forestry.
Yeah, I'm in the planning department.
And we'll get you
one of the
her
urban
number,
foresters.
so you'll have a direct contact, and also the city planners are very responsive too, so.
Thank you, sir.
Just in hindsight here, drainage are an issue, and they're gonna be working through that. The screening of the trees was an issue, and hopefully that'll be resolved and be comfortable with that. The trash runoff, I think is going to be corrected with grading permits, work hours. Yeah, I guess my original concern with this project was the true infrastructure and the cross-connectivity, but it is in process. I'd like to open this up to commissioners, either Commissioner Canada or Commissioner Sparkman. Would you like to comment?
Commissioner Canada has his hand raised, so I'll defer to him.
I was just gonna say that, I always get excited when we do have concerned neighbors that, give their comments to us and what they're experiencing, because it gives more of a full picture of what's going on. With that said, it sounds like, the applicant is putting in the necessary, safeguards down the line that goes along with the project to help mitigate that, and I just encourage them to work with city staff and the neighbors to make sure that they're being a good neighbor and, moving things along in the best way possible. But looking at the item as is, I personally don't have a problem with it, and I'd be willing to move it, forward to the full planning commission, but I'll wait to hear what, Commissioner Carter has to say.
Commissioner Sparkman.
Thank you, Commissioner Canada. But what I'm gonna say is gonna largely reflect what you say. Again, I'm always thankful whenever neighbors come in and give their feedback on a project, because even if with what we're looking at, we don't have a lot of power to do some changes from an authority standpoint. Number one, it kind of gives us an idea of the pulse of just designs and development in general in Fayetteville. And also, bringing things to city staff that we know are issues, hopefully can get some things, worked out. I do want to address the houses being ugly. Within the last decade, the Arkansas legislature changed the law that the city cannot implement any residential design standards. And cities used to have the ability to regulate that. So if that's something that is concerning to you, that'll be something that you'll need to contact your state legislature about, because our hands are very tied as to that. Second of all, what we have to look at in a large-scale development is, does it meet the minimum standards of city law? And if it doesn't if it meets those standards, basically we have to approve it. If there are things that are in city standards that are not working out and that you think need to be improved upon, that's a wonderful opportunity to contact your council member about it, because again, we're kind of limited by those rules. All that being said, I understand your concerns, and I'm not saying I don't agree with you. I think for this particular development and what we have here, it is meeting the letter of the ordinance. So I do think that administratively, it is something that we do have to approve because it hits those check marks. But I'm hopeful that we'll have a better project because of your comments and you coming here today. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to forward CCP 2022-07 to the full planning commission, recommending in favor of recommended street improvements and all other conditions of approval.
Commissioner Canada, second.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring that up. For a vote, I do echo the appreciation of drainage. We need to have Jordan and Associates work with drainage and screening, and when it comes up at the Planning Commission, I would hope that the neighbors have been satisfied with the results of the discussions between them. And with that, I'll also vote in favor to forward as recommended by Commissioner Sparkman and Commissioner Canada. Thank you very much, and we will get you the numbers to them. And then with that, the second item on the agenda is LSD 2022-19, large-scale development submitted by Bates and Associate for the property of 4550 North Crossover. The property is zoned P1, institutional RA, and contains approximately 8.24 acres. The request is for a 16,560 square foot religious institution with parking. And with that, the planner is Ms. Harrison. And Ms. Harrison, if you could give us the information, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the subject property for this item is located in North Fayetteville, roughly 200 feet north of the intersection of Crossover Road and Zion Road. The property is currently zoned P1 institutional, though the far eastern portion of the property is currently zoned RA, residential agricultural, and it contains the riparian corridor and floodplain of Hilton Creek. The property total is roughly 8.24 acres, and it's currently developed with one single family dwelling, which was constructed in 1991. This item was previously heard at the June 16th Subdivision Committee, but it was tabled by staff since we realized after the meeting that we did not complete public notification for the item. We did not post a sign or create a sign for it, so it was tabled for this meeting since it could not be formally heard until that had been completed. So just to give you some background on the request itself, the applicant is asking for large-scale development approval to develop the property with a 16,560 square foot church facility and some associated parking. No variances have been requested with this proposal. To get into staff's recommendations, for right-of-way to be dedicated, the property has frontage along Crossover Road to the west, and that road is a regional link street in the 2040 Master Street Plan, typically requiring 46 feet of right-of-way from center line. An excess of RDOT right-of-way is currently present there, so we are not recommending any additional right-of-way dedication with this development. For street improvements, the active transportation plan indicates a future trail connection in this location. So we are asking, and the applicant is proposing to provide a 12-foot trail at the back of the existing right-of-way. Staff is recommending that trail in green space as shown on the plans. For access management and connectivity standards, staff has found that the project meets those requirements. Access is proposed via an existing curb cut onto Crossover Road, and cross access is being provided with the adjacent property owner to the south. The applicant has also supplied an adjacent property owner authorization letter demonstrating that they have consented to those access points onto their property. For the site conditions, the site has access to both water and sanitary sewer. A 6-inch water main is present to the south of the property, and a short main extension is proposed to accommodate a fire lane and domestic service line for this development. The project is also proposing to connect into an existing 8-inch sewer main, which is on the west side of the property along Crossover Road. Since this is a non-residential development, it is not subject to any parkland dedication or architectural design requirements. Since it's an institutional use. Otherwise, I will let Ms. Evans talk about tree preservation requirements, and we did not receive any public comment on this item. And we are recommending that it be approved today, given the fact that there are no variances being requested, and there are minimal improvements that staff is recommending for it. But I can stand for any questions that you may have on this.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Anderson. Ms. Evans, could you help us with Urban Forestry's comments?
Yes, we did not receive an updated tree preservation or landscape plan, so I don't know if our comments from TechPlat have been or will be addressed, but I'll go over those. So the required minimum canopy percentage for this site is 20% since it's RMF 12. And it is in the HHOD, which brings it actually up to 25%. Their existing tree canopy is 27% on site, and they are preserving 20.1% and removing 6.9%. So this requires 77 mitigation trees to be planted. And we had some comments about the grading needs to be adjusted along the drip lines, root zones of the existing trees at the northern and south sides of the site. So I want to make sure they can be truly preserved if that's their intent. What they'd shown previously, half of those root zones were disturbed with the grading, and that's too much impact on those trees. So I think we can work that out. I hope we can going forward. Also, they need to show a tree preservation easement or easements to be dedicated for the preserved trees on site, since this is a large-scale development. As far as landscape plan comments, so 77 mitigation trees are required, and I believe they have shown those. 4 parking lot trees, 14 street trees, and 1 detention pond tree. We've asked them to screen the parking from the street right away with shrubs, and then also have a question about whether the mitigation trees will be planted now with phase 1 or in phase 2. That wasn't clear. We prefer most of those trees to be planted now rather than later, and I think they have room to do that to keep them out of the phase 2 area, so they have room for construction and to alleviate damage to those trees at that point. And that, otherwise, we recommend this project move forward. We're fairly confident that we can work these things out as we go forward with grading construction documents. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I can't speak for Urban Forestry, but I don't think there's a problem with going overboard with trees. Good, so if they wanna do more than 77 trees, I'm all for that. Do we have, Mr. Procaccio, do you have any comments, or engineering have anything to say?
As far as comments on this one, we had relatively minor ones. Existing utilities, water, sewer, accessible to the site. They aren't proposing a short main extension. The property does have a portion of it in the hydric, with hydric soils and in a special flood hazard area, but the development is not encroaching into those, so we're not concerned with that. Just wanted to point that out and make sure that everyone's aware of it. They're proposing to meet 4 minimum standards in the drainage manual, so water quality, channel protection, and then peak flow mitigation. But as far as our review and recommendation, we're recommending it be approved today as well.
Thank you very much. Any concerns from fire and police as far as turnarounds or comments that they would like to mention?
Fire has no comments on this, recommends moving forward.
Well, thank you very much. With that, if we could hear from a representative from Bates and Associates, please.
We have Jake Chavis online.
Mr. Chavis, please.
Hi, it's Abby with Bates and Associates.
Okay, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but please speak up though.
Okay, it's Abby here with Bates and Associates,
Okay.
and I'm here to answer any questions you guys have.
Okay, I guess since you're on the line, I'd like to hear how will you answer the questions by Urban Forestry in the next 2 weeks, regardless regarding HHOD, tree canopy mitigation, and the other questions that are still open?
Yes, I believe that we will be planting those trees in the first phase, because I believe the owner is not exactly sure when they're wanting to do that second phase. So yes, I do believe we will be doing that first.
Good, I feel more
I can ensure that question beforehand, and I can email Melissa regarding that answer as well.
Please, that'd be very helpful, and also any utility questions by Mr. Procaccio. The more information that's down, the better I feel about it. With that, I'd open it up to the commissioners here, either Commissioner Canada, please,
Any public comment?
or,
Public comment.
any public comments? Sorry. That's why I have 8 people with me to watch me. So, thank you. If we could have Commissioner Canada, please. I see your hand up.
Sorry, my hand has been up, but not for that reason.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. I'll open it up to general comments from the commission, please.
I love straightforward items. There are some things that need to be addressed, but that can be done at the staff level, and if for whatever reason it's not able to be done at staff level, I'm sure it will make its way back to us. So, that being said, I move to approve LSD 2022-019 with conditions determining in favor of recommended right-of-way dedication, in favor of recommended street improvements, and all other conditions as recommended by staff.
Second, Commissioner Cannon.
Thank you. And I'll agree, so that'll pass unanimously. And with that, are there any announcements that anybody would like to make here?
Just remind me of planning commission on July 11th.
Okay, the next planning commission will be July 11th. Just a personal comment, please remember your pets may not be big 4th of July fans, so please keep them close. Hot weather coming, keep them warm and cool, and a lot of water for them. So with that, this concludes the subdivision meeting for June 30th, 2020. Thank you all very much.